West Virginia ends the 2023 season with a 9-4 mark as champions of the Duke's Mayo Bowl. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the game as I was able to be there to witness it in person. We're going to go over some key players for the game, some key performances for the game, and what the future looks like for this Mountaineer program, and we're going to do that right after this word from my sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode is brought to you by Dutch Miller Automotive, where friends and family pricing means you get the best deal right up front on any new or pre-loved vehicle in stock every time. With brands like Chevrolet, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Kia, Hyundai, Ford, GMC, Buick, and Subaru, the Dutch Miller Automotive family is always growing and ready to put you in the car or truck you've been searching for. Check out our inventory across West Virginia at DutchMillerAuto.com or come in today to the home of friends and family pricing, only at a Dutch Miller Automotive store near you. What is up, college sports fans, Big 12 fans, fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into another edition of Couz's Corner. Belly yourself up to the bar. Let me pour you out this shot of top shelf college football content on tap today. We are recapping West Virginia's 30-10 victory in the Duke's Mayo Bowl over the North Carolina Tar Heels. I was blessed to be at this game in person. Had really good seats. Was sitting about 11 rows from the field on the North Carolina side, unfortunately. I bought my tickets before I knew which side the teams were going to be on. So I just bought the best seats I could find at the best price and ended up on the North Carolina side. But even with that, there were still a lot of Mountaineer fans in our section. I would say the crowd was probably 75% West Virginia fans, if not more. Very, very good turnout by Mountaineer Nation. Want to give kudos, first of all, to the Duke's Mayo Bowl folks. They did a great job putting on this bowl game. Duke's Mayo really, really got their money's worth. They were spotlighted throughout the game. I've heard people make comments on X that they were spotlighted on TV a lot as well, but if not too much. So shout out to Duke's Mayo for doing a great job putting on this game. The music inside the stadium was good. They did play Sweet Carolina. They played Country Roads after the victory. They did a good job showing, highlights from both teams and things like that on the video board on the Jumbotron throughout the game. But let's talk about the game itself. Want to talk about, obviously, West Virginia with a big win here. Let's first off talk about the offensive side of the ball. Now, the offense obviously came out, scored on the very first play of the game with a 75-yard touchdown strike from Garrett Greene to Traylon Ray. But the offense after that kind of sputtered. Really struggled to get things going in the first half. Was not able to run the football well until late in the game. North Carolina was selling out to stop the run. Obviously, Zach Frazier was missed on that offensive line. But even with that, the offensive line still did a solid job. I mean, they only gave up 1 sack in the game. Only 3 tackles for loss in the game did that West Virginia offensive front give up. So I still thought they did a pretty good job. Would have been nice to have C.J. Donaldson back there to kind of act as that battering ram back that we needed back there to kind of change the pace a little bit. But we all know he was recovering from an injury. DJ Oliver did get a couple carries. Unfortunately, he fumbled and was not able to get back in the game after that. But that being said, they were able to find a way to win the football game. They did it this time. They kind of reverted back to what they were doing early in the season when they won with defense and special teams. The defense stepped up and played a really good football game. They were able to get 7 sacks and 11 tackles for loss on North Carolina in this game. Also forced 3 turnovers, 2 on defense, 1 on special teams. Shout out to Tyrin Bradley, who played a good game. Came away with a really nice one-hand interception. And I don't know if you guys saw this on TV, but a play or two before that interception, Tyrin Bradley, because this happened right in front of our seats, Tyrin Bradley was taken on a block on a play. I think it was a run play around the end on his side. He was taken on a block, and he flat out destroyed the blocker, laid him on his back, and was able to go and assist with the tackle. And then a play or two later, he had that interception. Just did a great job reading the offense, what they were trying to do, dropping into coverage in an area where the quarterback, Connor Harrell, was not able to see him. Reached up and picked the ball out of the air. Great job by Tyrin Bradley. Also, an interception by Aubrey Burks in the end zone to stop what could have been a North Carolina scoring drive. They were driving the ball down our throats on that drive. Aubrey Burks was able to stop it with an interception. So great job with this. And then obviously the other turnover was on a punt. Oliver Straw did a really good job getting hang time on that punt. Allowed West Virginia's coverage team to get downfield. The North Carolina guys kind of lost sight of the football, wasn't paying attention. It hit one of their players on the leg, and I think it was Marcus Floyd was able to jump on top of it. So good job for West Virginia. The downside to that, they were not able to score on any of those turnovers. Again, the offense sputtered in this game until late. But again, they found a way to win. It was a good team win. I also want to give a shout out to Michael Hayes. Michael Hayes was really good in this game, made all of his field goal attempts. So shout out to him. I'm sorry, he did miss one, but it was a really long one. I think it was a 50-plus yarder. He did miss. But other than that, he did a really good job. He did a good job on kickoffs. So shout out to Michael Hayes. Shout out to special teams for the fake field goal. They ran that fake field goal. Leighton Bechtel was able to get big yards on that, which got them deeper into North Carolina territory, which enabled them to make a field goal later in the drive. Unfortunately, it didn't lead to 6. And then, again, Oliver Straw did a good job punting the football, was able to pin North Carolina deep a couple of times. Now, let's talk about the key players in this game that I thought stood out. Obviously, Garrett Greene got MVP. When you look at Garrett's stats, though, they don't blow you away. He did not have his best performance, but obviously it was good enough to win the game. But when you look at his overall stats, he was 12 of 24 passing, 228 yards and a touchdown. No interceptions. Once again, only threw 4 picks the entire season. It's a great job, Garrett Greene, on the year with his touchdown to interception ratio. He also carried the ball 9 times for 64 yards, which led the team. And he had the long run of 48 yards, which really, really, I thought, put a dagger into this North Carolina team and was able to get West Virginia in scoring position. Jaheim White he was a starting back with the absence of C.J. Donaldson. He carried the ball 12 times for 50 yards, did have the 1 touchdown late in the game, which sealed it for West Virginia, I thought. Jalen Anderson carried it 3 times for 18 yards. DJ Oliver twice for 9 yards, and then he had the fumble. Nico carried it 3 times for 6 yards as well. And then obviously the one carry by punter Leighton Bechtel, who was the holder on the field goal, picked it up, ran with it, got 17 yards. When you look at receiving, I really, really thought, even though Garrett Greene got MVP, I felt like you could have given that to either Traylon Ray or even Hudson Clement in this game as well. Traylon Ray caught 3 passes for 91 yards and did have the 175-yard touchdown. Hudson Clement, a big day for him, had some really big catches on the day. 5 catches, 89 yards, along with 32. And remember, he had the one big play that was called back because of an ineligible man downfield. That would have given him even bigger numbers on the day had that play held up. Cole Taylor caught the ball twice for 33 yards, and Jaheim White had a couple catches himself for 15 yards as well out of the backfield. Now, West Virginia did turn it over once on them, themselves on the DJ Oliver fumble. Again, offense struggled to run the football. That is a little bit of, and I'll talk about next season in a minute, but I do feel like that's a little bit of a concern going into next year. When you look at the defensive standouts of this game, obviously I've already mentioned Tyrin Bradley. Lee Kpogba was just an absolute man-possessed in this game. 12 total tackles in the game, 8 of those being solo, including 1 tackle for loss. He was just all over the field making plays around the ball. Anthony Wilson had 9 tackles. Beanie Bishop had 8 tackles. Marcus Floyd, 7 tackles, 4 solos, a sack, and a tackle for loss. Guys, how about Jalen Thornton? What could arguably be Jalen Thornton's last game? He does have a year of eligibility remaining, but he mentioned in a press conference that he's not sure he's going to play anymore after this year. In the last play, what could be the last play of his career at West Virginia was a sack, guys. And he absolutely had probably his best game ever as a Mountaineer. 4 tackles, 1 solo tackle, 1.5 tackles for loss, and 1.5 sacks. Absolute monster performance by Jalen Thornton. That defensive front really played a heck of a game. Sean Martin, we all know, went down fairly early in the game with an ankle injury or a lower leg injury, whatever it ended up being. But he was playing well, was getting into the backfield, wreaking some havoc before he went out. But the guys who came in relief of him and his fellow teammates, his fellow defensive linemen, played a heck of a game. I mentioned Thornton. Tommy Wadurajaye had a half a sack and a tackle for loss. Fatorma Mobile played well. He had a half a sack. Sonny Redwood had the big sack. We've heard all along how talented a Sonny Redwood is. Man, he made a heck of a play on that sack. Just go on and on. Edward Vesterin, and arguably his best game ever as a Mountaineer. 6 tackles, a solo tackle, a sack, and 1.5 tackles for loss. Jared Bartlett had a solid game with a sack and 2 tackles for loss. What many think could be his last game as well. There's rumors floating around that Jared Bartlett may either transfer or maybe even retire from football after this year. And he put a tweet up on his X account after the game that kind of leads me to believe that could be the case. Matter of fact, I'll just read that to you. He said, and I quote, "Proud of this team, glad to ball out with my guys one last time. Let's go Mountaineers." Now, a lot of people think that maybe he's just saying, hey, we're glad to ball out with these seniors one last time. But because of all the rumors that are floating around on X, some things I've been hearing from some sources, from some people, it looks like, and most of you, any of you who are on X have seen the same thing yourself, there are rumors floating around that Jared Bartlett is done as a Mountaineer, but he did want to finish his career in this bowl game. If that's the case, Jared Bartlett, I appreciate your time at West Virginia. Hate to see you go, young man. Would love to see you finish your career here in your last year of eligibility, but I appreciate what you've done for the program. You will always be a Mountaineer here. You got your degree from West Virginia, and you gave this team, 4 or 5 good solid years of your life. So hats off to you, Jared Bartlett. Appreciate everything you've done. Best of luck to you in the future if you decide to move on, either to retirement or if you decide to hit the transfer portal. But nonetheless, guys, those are some guys who stood out, and I would be remiss, guys, if I did not mention Beanie Bishop, the big punt return. For those of you who aren't on X or who didn't see the post-game press conferences, Beanie Bishop had not returned a punt in his entire college career. In what was his last year of eligibility, his 5th year in college, he's returning punts in place of Preston Fox, who's out with an injury. His very first punt return, he takes it to the freaking house, guys, for the touchdown. Very, very big play in this game. Really gave West Virginia the momentum for the rest of the game. And really also, to me, is a feather in Beanie Bishop's cap. One more thing he puts on film for the NFL scouts that will hopefully help him land a spot on a roster and to play on Sundays. So hats off to Beanie Bishop for that punt return. Very good story is Beanie Bishop. Started out Western Kentucky, transfers to Minnesota where he's not even a starter, right? Comes to finish his career out at West Virginia where he becomes not only a starter, but the 13th consensus All-American in school history, led the nation in pass breakups and passes defended, and ends his career on a punt return. One of the things he came to West Virginia for was so he could get a chance to return kicks and punts. And he ends his career, or last game of his career, with a punt return touchdown. Just, I don't know how you could script a story any better than that. So, Beanie Bishop, thank you for your time as a Mountaineer, man. It was 1 year, but it was a big one, and we appreciate what you did for this team, the way you handled yourself and the way you carried yourself as a Mountaineer. Matter of fact, I want to give hats off to all these seniors, guys, all these guys that are either graduating or moving on, who gave this program their heart and their soul, whether it be 1, 2, 3, 4 years, especially those who are leaving the right way, which I think is the majority of them. Thank you all for what you've done. Thank you for what you've given to this program and this state. It means a lot to us, guys, as you probably have already I can already tell. And we wish you nothing but the best in your future endeavors. Now, for a few concerns for next season. Obviously, the team didn't run the ball real well. They did exceed 160 yards on the ground, but it took them to late in the second half to do it with the big, long 48-yard run by Garrett Greene and then that last touchdown run there by Jaheim White. But they started out the game struggling to run the football. Now, a lot of that was because North Carolina was selling out to stop the run. You could say that some of it was because of Zach Frazier being out. Guys, he is the best, arguably the best center in the country. Definitely one of the top 2 or 3 best centers in the country. Him being out is going to impact the team. Is that a concern for next year? I don't think so. It may have been a concern for this game because the team had less time to practice without him. But going into next season, they're going to have an entire offseason to prepare the next guy, which likely will be Brandon Yates. Is Brandon Yates Zach Frazier? No, he's not. But I do think we can still have a good offensive line and a solid running attack with him coming back. We're going to have Wyatt Milam back, who, oh, by the way, had a great game. His PFF grades are off the charts. He had scored over 80 on his PFF grades, allowed 0 quarterback pressures in the game. So a fantastic performance by left tackle Wyatt Milam. He'll be back. We'll have Nick Malone back, who was our backup tackle this year. He'll be back. Tomas Rimac will be back. Jaquay Hubbard will be back, and Brandon Yates will be back. Some really good offensive linemen in the 2 deep for this team. And yes, we're losing Doug Nestor at the right tackle spot, but I'm really confident Nick Malone can fill that slot right there if Johnny Williams or someone else doesn't beat him out for the spot. Also, one of the concerns is the defensive secondary. We're losing a lot of guys there, whether it be the graduation or the portal. But I am confident. I do like the guys they went out and got in the portal, and I'm confident they'll go get some more out of the portal. So I think that concern will be addressed, so I'm not real worried about it. The things I'm really excited about for next year, obviously, are defensive line. Defensive line played a heck of a game, even with Sean Martin out. Even with Mike Lockhart in the portal, not on the team anymore, they played absolutely phenomenal. Like I said, 7 sacks in this game. We're able to get pressure on North Carolina's quarterback, who, oh, by the way, is really fast and can move. And they were still able to get pressure on him and get him down to the ground. So I'm really excited about our defensive front. I'm excited about the linebackers. Yes, Lee Kpogba is going to be a huge loss for this team, Very, very critical piece of this team, but I love the young talent behind him and Ben Cutter and Josiah Trotter and Trey Lathan. Love those guys that are going to be there. Caden Beiser, I think, will be back next year, who's been a solid backup for this team. He had 4 tackles on the day and a half a sack himself. So he'll be back as far as I know. So really excited about that linebacker core. Going into next year, I really like the momentum this team has. Guys, look, there are going to be a lot of negative Nancy's out there who are going to say, yeah, but they didn't beat any real good teams. And they beat a North Carolina team who were missing a lot of their starters in the bowl game. I understand that. But guys, the West Virginia program has only won 9 games 19 times in school history. Okay, 19 times in over 100 years. This year is one of those 19 times. You've got to give Neil Brown kudos. When you look at the returning production coming back for this team, Garrett Greene, C.J. Donaldson, Jaheim White, Traylon Ray, Rodney Gallagher, Hudson Clement, Preston Fox, Wyatt Milam, Trey Lathan, Fatorma Mulba, Sean Martin, possibly. I mean, the list goes on and on. You look at the returning production this team's going to have back at key positions too, guys. Left tackle, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, defensive line, offensive line. We have key guys returning. And the guys who are going to be filling in spots where guys are leaving have experience. So I really like the progression of this team. I've not seen this much positivity within our fan base in several years. It's been a really long time. I saw one person on X say they haven't felt this good about the team since our Orange Bowl victory over Clemson back in 2012. Guys, things are looking up in Morgantown. Let's enjoy it. Let's embrace it. Let's enjoy an offseason where things are positive for once. Let's not focus on the negatives. And by the way, speaking of Garrett Greene, yes, he was bowl game MVP, well-deserved. Guys, let me tell you a feat he accomplished. And I saw this on X last night. I think it was Keenan Cummings who tweeted this out. If it wasn't, I'll correct it later in the comments. But he said this: only 6 times in school history had a quarterback at West Virginia ever rushed for 75 yards in a game and threw for 200 yards in a game, in the same game. It had happened 6 times in school history. Garrett Greene did it 4 times this season alone. So for those people out there who want to focus on completion percentage and things like that, Garrett Greene is an absolute dog to AWG. He's the quarterback for this team, and he has the potential, in my opinion, to be the best quarterback in the Big 12 in 2024. I really think that. I really believe that deep down in my soul. Now, we obviously know that we could lose guys to the portal. Heck, guys could announce they're entering the portal before this video's even up or before you've watched it. So keep an eye out for what guys may leave that could impact this team going forward. Hopefully the core guys stay. Neil Brown has said he expects guys to leave, so it won't be a huge surprise. We know they've got over 90 guys. If you include the recruits they brought in, plus the portal guys they've brought in, plus who's on the roster now with eligibility, there's over 90 guys. So some guys are going to have to leave. That's just no way around it. Hopefully, it's guys who leave on good terms, and it's guys who aren't going to be critical to this team in 2024. And what I mean by that is guys who aren't going to be in the too deep. But anyway, guys, I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know what you think about this game. Also, real quick, I want to share, before we go, though, guys, I want to share the team stats with you. As you see, first downs, West Virginia only had 16 first downs to North Carolina's 20. Third down efficiency, West Virginia was 4 of 13. North Carolina was 6 of 15. Fourth downs, West Virginia 1 of 2. North Carolina 1 of 3. Total yards, West Virginia outgained North Carolina 392 to 339. Had more passing yards, 228 to 199. Averaged 9.5 yards a pass to 7.4 for North Carolina. North Carolina threw the 2 picks. Garrett Greene threw 0 picks. West Virginia ran for 164 yards, 140 for North Carolina. Yards per rush, West Virginia ran for 5.5 yards per rush to North Carolina's 3.4. So West Virginia's defense was able to hold North Carolina to 3.4 yards per rush. And guys, Omarion Hampton, for North Carolina, was one of the top running backs in the country this year. Had over 1,400 yards rushing. So great performance by that West Virginia defensive that defensive front seven. Penalties, too many penalties for West Virginia. That is one of the glaring things in this game that stood out as a negative. They had 9 penalties for 71 yards. Maybe some of that could be due to rust because they hadn't played in a month. So that could be a part of it. North Carolina also had 8 penalties for 60 yards. Turnovers, North Carolina had the 3 that I mentioned. West Virginia had 1. Time of possession, again, this is an area West Virginia has succeeded most of the year. Not as good in this game. Only held the ball for 25 minutes, 21 seconds. North Carolina had it for 34 minutes, 39 seconds. One more glaring thing there that stands out to me about our defense. They were on the field that long and were still able to hold up and not only made stops in the second half, but I thought played even better in the second half. Shut North Carolina out in the second half after being on the field for that kind of time. So I just can't give enough kudos to this defense for what they did in this bowl game. Obviously, we saw Neil Brown get his Mayo bath. That's something we can all look back on and laugh and remember. But just I'm really proud of Coach Brown, the way he stepped up, the way his staff stepped up. Really proud of the players. A great season after being picked to finish 14th in the league, after Garrett Greene was picked to be the worst quarterback in all of Power 5 football. He stepped up. The team still stepped up. The coaching staff stepped up, put in the work, put in the time, came together and won 9 games as a team, only one of 19 times in school history. So kudos to this team. Guys, again, let me know in the comments what you thought about this performance. Let me know the positives and negatives. Are you excited about going into 2024? What are your thoughts about the future of the program? Guys, also, if you want to support my channel here, guys, there are several ways you can do that. First of all, you can do it for free by hitting the thumbs up button, sharing it with your friends, dropping that comment below, and subscribing to my channel if you haven't yet. There could be a red, black, or white subscribe button below the video. Please hit that. Subscribe to my channel. It's absolutely free and only takes a second. If you want to support me financially, guys, there are several different ways you can do it. You can join my channel, become a VIP member of Couz's Corner. There's a $2.99 level and a $4.99 level. Different perks that go along with that. Check all that out by hitting the join button. If you don't see a join button on your device, there's a link in the description box that'll get you in to my channel where you can join. Also, guys, I am an affiliate marketer of On It Athlete Trading Cards. Transfer portal season's hot and heavy. One way you can support the team through NIL is buying On It Athlete Trading Cards. West Virginia is available. There's a link to On It Athlete in the description box. Click that link. Buy yourself some On It Athlete Trading Cards. The players get 60% of the profits. I'll get a small commission from the sale. You'll be supporting me and your favorite team at the same time. If you're not a West Virginia fan, your team may be available as well. And if they're not, be on the lookout. They could be available soon. Also, check out my website, guys, Couz'sCorner.com. There's a lot of really good sports blogs over there, including a recap of last night's game by one of my writers, Shanna Rose. She does a great job over there, so go check that out. Zach Siegel is also putting up a great article about his experience at the game, so go check that out. Got some quotes from some fans and others in the stadium, so that should be cool, fun to read. So go check out Couz'sCorner.com. Check out the blog articles. You can also get access to my videos and my audio-only podcast episodes over at Couz'sCorner.com. Go please check it out. Before I go, I want to give a shout-out to, first off, Big Aaron, who I was able to meet at the game. He's a supporter of my show and our Hoops from the Hills channel, where Mountaineer Paul and I cover West Virginia basketball. So shout-out to Big Aaron. Thank you for yelling at me. Also, shout-outs to Austin and AJ, who I met as well at the game and in a restaurant before the game. Thank you all for your support. Thanks for giving me a shout-out and hollering at me there when you saw me there at the game. That being said, guys, thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for your support. I hope you have a top shelf rest of your day, and Q Country Roads.